Right, today I am joined by a Scottish British ultra running legend, Debbie
My
Martin
goodness.
Consani.
What an intro. Thank you. Nice to see you. That is
Yeah,
quite the tash you're sporting.
I know well, it's the last day of Movember, so the
I was
tash
kind
will
of
be
hoping there's got to be some kind of charity aspect to that.
the tash will be going tomorrow, and that means one thing. That's the start of Marcothon season. So
Yes,
we'll get on to talk about that. But
sure.
first of all, can you tell me when when was your first race? What was it?
Race. Oh my goodness. I did my first run back in February 2002. I know this because it was the day after my niece was born and I had a massive hangover. Becoming an auntie was always going to be a valid excuse to get absolutely slaughtered, wasn't it? Back then, I didn't need any excuses. And yeah, so I did my first run on a February evening, and I couldn't run for a minute. But I had a goal of running the women's 10K in Glasgow in the May. So I'd signed up with my flatmate and a couple of colleagues at the time with a view to doing one 10K. So that's how it started. It snowballed from a 10K to half marathon to marathon. And then I found myself in the murky waters of ultra running, and I've kind of just stayed there.
And when was your first ultra run?
I did my first ultra in 2007. 2007. So probably about 5 years after that. So when I started running, I did a couple of marathons, and then I joined Garscoop Harriers in Glasgow, where I met my husband, Marco. And I was doing quite a lot of hill walking, manure bagging at the time, and I wanted to do something that combines my love of hills and running, and stumbled across a website for the Devil of the Highlands, which is quite an iconic race here in Scotland. It was definitely a much low key event back then than it is now. And that's how, yeah, I thought I would just do one ultra, see how it is, and kind of fell in love with it. Obviously, a couple of days after, because I was utterly broken at the end of it. So yeah, it's kind of snowballed from there.
I was looking up your DUV record and comparing it to mine. We we've raced. I say raced. We weren't racing each other. We were in the same race 5 times back in the olden days of around 2010, and there was some results that we were within 30 seconds of each other.
Oh, really? Oh, well, there you go. Who won though,
But
Mike? That's what we need to know.
well, it was out of the 5 races, 3 of them were you and 2 of them were me.
Okay.
But
I'll take that.
one of the races, I think it was the fling, that was the one that we were. I think it was 28 seconds apart. But you would have started back then. They did females started at a different time than the males,
Oh,
so
yeah, of course.
we would have been 2 or 3 hours start difference, but the race time was ended up being 28 seconds apart.
Oh, there you go.
So, so pretty equally matched back then. But since then, you've went on and done some huge races, the Spine multiple times. You've represented Britain in the 24-hour World Championship and in World Championship and European Championship, Tour de Géants, Spartathlon, Badwater, and that's just a few of them.
Yeah.
Um, out of all the races that you've done, which one sticks in the memory the most?
Um, I don't know whether it was just because they were the hardest or maybe the most rawest in my brain because they were the most recent, if there's such a word. Um, Last year I did the Spine and then did Badwater in the July. I don't think you could find two more extreme races to go from utter misery in the Pennine Way in January to the furnace that is Death Valley in July. I think they both stick in my brain the most, for different reasons, obviously. But yeah, I think the most memorable for me right now has to be Badwater. I think I like to push myself to extremes, and I do enjoy a good dose of suffering. But yeah, you know, I'm Scottish and ginger and quite fair, and probably don't belong in Death Valley. So I think that was the hardest for me because, you know, I really had to think outside the box to train for it, let alone actually do it. And yeah, I think just to go away and be part of a holiday and a whole experience. And you know, I've known about Badwater since I started ultra running. I think I bought a book about it in 2011. Never broke the spine of the book, but it was always kind of one of those bucket list races, but not just because it was a, you know, a tick boxing exercise. I really wanted to experience it, but I didn't really think I would ever do it. And then it just, after I did the spine, I thought, you know what, I'm just going to apply for it. And yeah, lo and behold, I got a place, which was, it's kind of weird because you've got to earn your stripes in Badwater to get a place. But fortunately for me, the race director had been following the spine. So I was lucky enough to grab a spot on the race. So I think, yeah, for me, the most memorable, if I think about like what I went through for training for it, and you know, experiencing the race, and the, you know, I had to go deep in the well to get to that finish line. And it's, yeah, it's something that I'm super proud of to be able to achieve. That is, yeah, that'll be right up there.
Good. After a big race like one of these, what's your recovery like? And thinking about between those two races, you obviously needed to recover to be able to train again. So what do you do to recover?
Yeah, I think with a, sorry, there goes my ring doorbell. When you're doing a race like the spine, where you're doing it over, you know, quite a few days, it does take that little bit longer to recover from, and it's not necessarily the exertion. I think the sleep deprivation takes so much to recover from. And as you had said, I've done Tour de Gion and I've done the spine race twice, and I do need a good 10 to 12 weeks to recover from that. Not just like physically, like soreness or DOMs or any kind of niggles, but you know, there's swelling, there's fatigue. The fatigue lingers for way longer than what it would do if you were just doing. You can't say just 100 miles, can you? But I think those things are quick. You can recover quicker from them. You know, you can get over them maybe in about 3 or 4 weeks before you start feeling semi-normal. But I think it does take me a good 3 months to get over something that, you know, we're talking like 100 hours plus on the go. So yeah, it was a quick recovery from the spine to Badwater, but I tend to focus on things that are my weaknesses. So I knew like Badwater is 135 miles, but there's also about 14,000 feet of climbing in it. You know, you go over 3 mountain passes, which people just think it's a long flat road. But there is a lot of climbing in that as well. But I knew I already had that training in the bank, so my focus was always going to be on the heat training. So once I'd recovered from the spine, you know, I had done the miles, I had done the ascent, I had plenty of running in my legs. I just focused on a lot on heat training as well. So it was kind of nice to train for something different, especially with the spine when you're just training in the dark up a hill with a pack, you know, looking for the worst weather conditions ever. And then to do something.
Find plenty of them in Scotland.
Absolutely, yeah. So yeah, just to do something different, it was quite refreshing as well. In a weird self-harming kind of way, yeah.
One of the rumours that you hear about the Badwater is that your shoes melt if you stand on certain parts of the road. How true is that?
I think maybe back in the day they might have. I've definitely seen footage of it, and I've seen footage of it recently as well. You know, like a few years ago, there was someone whose your shoes probably come a little bit sticky, but I think shoe technology has come on quite a lot in recent years. I didn't have a problem with my shoes disintegrating. You know, I've put 100 miles on my shoes, so they do. You know, there's going to be differences to the sole. But yeah, I mean, there is footage out there of people frying eggs on the road. The road is super hot. I remember one time I had to bend down to tie my shoelace and I put my knee on the road, and oh my goodness, it was Yeah, so the road does get very hot. They do say like run along the white line, just so you're not getting that heat off the road. I tried to kind of stick to the white line. If anything, it was it was easier just to follow. But yeah, my shoes did not melt. I can say that. I melted, but my shoes didn't. My shoes were fine.
Was there any other, like, how did you prepare for the heat? Was there clothes that you're wearing during it? How did you stop? You don't get that in Scotland, so how did you
No.
stop the sun?
Yeah, I had to be quite creative. I built a heat chamber in my garage, which sounds really high spec, but it really wasn't. I bought some tarpaulin from Amazon for about 20 quid. I had a treadmill in there, so I blocked off a corner of my garage and bought 3 heaters from Amazon and stuck them in there, and I could get it up to nearly 40 degrees. Thankfully, it was before the energy crisis, and otherwise, otherwise I'd probably have bankrupt myself doing that in there for a few hours, because I would heat it up for like an hour before I went in it. So yeah, that was a good way of doing it. I mean, it's not ideal. It doesn't replicate the sun beating down on you and the temperature coming off the road and the heat of the wind. So it's not even close, but it's the best I could do. So, and I spent a lot of time sitting in saunas as well. I felt like the best I could have been, given that I live in Scotland, and I think that summer was quite late. And I run in the morning quite a lot, so there was times where I was training for Badwater and it was 8 degrees outside, and that was in June. So yeah, I just had to do what I could. We were in Vegas for the week before, and that was kind of low 40s as well with that desert heat. So I think that really helped prepare me for it as well. But yeah, there's not really much chance to replicate 50 odd degrees in Scotland at any point. I think one time in Glasgow it got to 33 degrees and the roof of the science centre melted. That's how ill-equipped we are for such temperatures here. So yeah, the odds were not in my favour, that was for sure.
So the opposite you just said was the spine. How did the kit change from the spine to Badwater? And how does that compare to what you would normally wear in Scotland?
Yeah, I mean, I do run quite warm anyway, so I think when it gets to like the winter, I might put on some sleeves and a pair of gloves. But obviously with the spine, the kit is the most important thing that's going to get you through that event. But it varies from year to year or even day to day when you're on the spine. So, the first time I did it, we had Storm Brendan, which hit on day 2, which was quite a different experience than, like, for example, this year's race where they had sub-zero and there was snow and ice the whole time. I don't know which one's easier or which one's harder. I don't think there is such a thing. You just attack things and deal with things differently. So yeah, with the spine it's all down to kit, whereas with Badwater I think your nutrition and your heat management is way more important than anything that you're wearing.
Cool. Talking about nutrition, what did you eat in both those races, and what do you normally eat when you're just doing a 50 miler in Scotland?
Yeah, if I was just doing a 50 miler, let's not undermine such things. There's no such thing as that. But I would probably stick with gels and liquid calories. I really struggle to eat. I struggle to go through the motions of chewing when I'm doing races. The spine, I was mostly just eating at checkpoints where I could get like hot, nutritious, normal homemade food. At Badwater, geez, I wouldn't even want to guess how many calories I took in. There was not a lot, that's for sure. My crew were kind of noticing that I did the last 100 miles of it on absolutely nothing. I just couldn't stop being sick. That was my big problem. I couldn't eat. I don't think I ate anything. I don't remember eating anything. I was trying to get gels that were squeezed into water. But the first night I spent a lot of time being sick. There was a lot of vomiting going on. So yeah, what calories I was taking in was coming straight back off, unfortunately. So yeah, I wouldn't even want to guess how I did that. I don't think I need a lot of calories when I'm racing. I can get by with quite a minimal amount. But yeah, in hindsight, I look back at it and I think I was just completely off my tits for about 100 miles, and that was because I had nothing in me, absolutely nothing in me. But I couldn't take in calories. Like I could take in liquid because obviously it was really hot and I was really thirsty. But anything would hit my stomach and just come straight back up. So
And
yeah, it's fun times.
your words there was you were off your tits. Do you think that
Yep.
helped you manage to finish it?
No, I just think with something like Badwater in my head, I had one shot. You know, it costs a lot of money to go out there and do that race. You don't always get into the race. It's not like I can just nip back over to Death Valley and do the race again. Maybe I could, yeah, but I think with that, it was an amazing opportunity and I just had to take it by both horns. And yeah, there was nothing short of my legs falling off that was going to stop me from getting there. I mean, I didn't have any injury problems. My body was fine. I didn't have any blisters or chafing or anything. So I managed that really well. If anything, I was just really low on energy. There was no reason why I had to stop, for example. But I was so determined to get to the end. It didn't matter where I came in the race or what time I finished in. My only objective was to get up Mount Whitney and finish the race. So I think from a mindset perspective, my only goal was to finish it and nothing was going to stand in my way.
And you said that the calories going in were coming, you're vomiting them back up.
Yeah.
But did you ever have to go to the toilet? How do you do that in the middle of Death Valley?
You just don't have any decorum. There's nowhere to hide. It's not like you can jump behind a wall or a tree because there's nothing there. Thankfully, my stomach was okay, apart from the fact that I was pissing like a racehorse in the last 13 miles. I don't even know where it was coming from. But yeah, no, everything was fine because most of it just came straight out my mouth, unfortunately. Yeah, there was a lot of at the side being sick. But yeah.
Uh, you've done many big races. Have you had any major injuries out of them?
Do you know what? Touch wood. I've been really lucky. I mean, I say that I had to take the last week off because my hamstring was decided to detonate on me sometime last week. I think I'm just having general wear and tear just now. You know, I'm 48. I've put my body through quite a lot over the last 20 so years. My hamstrings, I've definitely seen better days. But over that time, I've been like super lucky that I haven't had any major injuries or any major time out. You know, I've had a couple of weeks here and there with some niggles as such. So yeah, I've been super lucky, but I think that is down to the fact that I do the majority of my miles like at a really easy pace. You know, I'm quite disciplined with, you know, if I'm doing intensity, then I'll do that within a specific session. But all my other miles are quite a low intensity. So I think, you know, I take like recovery and easy runs. Like I don't go by what my watch says or what a predetermined pace is. I just go with how I feel and I just keep that quite low.
The race that I was talking about was the Highland Fling 2011, and if you look at the other names around us, Neil Gibson, Donny Campbell, Neil McNichol, they're all still running now. So is that a sign that if you ran back then that you knew what you're talking about? I don't know about that one.
I don't know. Maybe it's conditioning. Maybe it's stubbornness. Maybe it's just part of our personalities and characters. I don't know. But yeah, I suppose in the sport, there's quite a lot of people who come in and out of it. And as we know, it's completely exploded in the last few years. I think like back then, nobody knew what ultra running was. You had to explain it to people all the time. Whereas now, I think it's a modern day sport, isn't it? Even though we know it's been going on for decades, if not centuries. Yeah, I think now it's, especially during lockdown as well, it's just kind of exploded with the people who couldn't go to the gym took up running, and now the sport But I think we're getting to a stage now where there's too many races and too many events. I think in Scotland it's okay because we still have the iconic races and we don't have a lot of races, to choose from. Whereas I think down south of the border, you could do a 6 mile race on a Thursday morning, for example, and it's almost like the market is just really saturated with races, and you see that some of the races just don't have that caliber or the quality of people racing in it. Whereas in Scotland, our races are still super competitive and really popular. And I'm kind of glad that we haven't gone down that route of races here, there, and everywhere. Although there is a lot more to choose from nowadays, that is for sure.
Going on that theme, is that something that I was going to say? Is there anything you don't like about running? And that's something that you don't like. The quality of the races aren't. Is there anything
not
else
necessarily. I think it's not that I don't like it. It's just my perception of what's happening. It's not necessarily a good or a bad thing. It's not something I have a strong opinion on. It's kind of nice that you can have all different events. And there's something for everyone, I guess. What do I not like about racing? I don't know. Every race is kind of different, isn't it? I do like it when races can be self-supported. That means that more people can join in or more people can come over. For me, going to Badwater and having to take a whole crew with me and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Obviously Badwater is different because you couldn't successfully complete it without having a crew. But I like things like the way that the Fling have done it, and it's equal. Everyone's the same. They just have drop bags and you don't need a crew, and it doesn't have that impact on the environment of hundreds of cars going up the lochside. It just makes it kind of authentic and a little bit organic, doesn't it? Because people just have to fend for themselves, and I think that's what ultra running should be. I say that if there's the opportunity for a race to have crew, I will 100% take crew. But sometimes it's kind of nice to have that option taken away from you. In the spine, everyone's the same. So it just means that people can come from everywhere and just do the event, and just opens it up a little bit as well.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. The first time that I did the West Highland Way, I wanted all the support I could get. The second time, you obviously had the support crew, but I wanted to do it in a time where I wasn't allowed a support crew because I wanted to have done it myself, even though they were there to help me at the checkpoints. So I would agree with that. Thinking about, you said that running and racing has become more popular because people can't go to the gym. Do you do any gym work?
I do. I have started this year. I am a member of a gym. I'm a member of David Lloyd, but I've never stepped foot in the gym. I do a couple of classes there. I do some yoga and I do a strength and conditioning class. But I have started this year doing more strength work. I read Stacey Symes' Next Level, and it's basically about women in sport, mature women in sport, so like 40 plus, and how your body is changing and what you can do to get the best out of your sport. Whereas before I only did running and then a little bit of yoga, and then when I went into lockdown I did more yoga and just running. Whereas this year, I started in January, I've done way more strength training. Actually, this year will be my lowest mileage year ever. I think, since I had my son 14 years ago. So I think I'll probably finish about 2,500 miles. Whereas before, I don't think I've ever gone below 3 or 3.5. So I did a lot of junk miles and, a lot of long training runs where I just don't seem to do that anymore. I don't know whether it's just time and life or just a basic inclination to go out and run 30 odd miles and stuff. And I think, now I've been doing a lot of runs closer to home as well. So yeah, it's my lowest miles, but I have been doing a lot of strength training, just following like YouTube videos and stuff like that. There's nothing really scientific to it, and I'm actually really enjoying it. And it was more for me, I just had to create that habit. I was always like, I knew the benefits of strength training. I know the benefits of foam rolling and breathing and all these things that you should do, but I just don't do them. Whereas strength training, I was really motivated after reading that book to incorporate more of it. And I've just created that habit that I've just got into the way of doing it now. which is something that I had to do. And yeah, I'm just enjoying it, and it stops me going out and doing loads of miles that I don't need to do, or I don't feel like I need to do anymore. So yeah.
Well, to hopefully not scare people, this year's probably my highest ever mileage, and that's about
Really?
2,500.
Oh, there you go. Horses for courses and all that, or courses for
Yeah,
whatever.
it's what works for
Yeah,
different people. So
exactly.
so you're saying that you're getting into more other sports. Why do you run?
Why do I run? I guess I started running back in the day because for the community aspect of it, it's, racing, well, not racing, running with colleagues to do the race. And then I guess I just got hooked. It's quite an addictive sport. It's part of an escape for me. It's a daily ritual. It's me time. It's keeping me sane. It means that I get to eat loads of stuff. I love being outside. If I'm outside, I am happy. I love feeling fit and strong and healthy. So yeah, there's loads of different reasons. I suppose, yeah, there's loads of different reasons. But for me, I just love being outside. I'm happy if I'm outside.
Okay. While you're doing a big race, like 3 days, whatever, you're running basically not constantly, but almost constantly for all that. What do you think about while you're doing that?
A lot of questioning why I'm doing I don't know. What do you think about? People ask that all the time. Like, what do you think about when you're running? I have no idea what I think about. I wouldn't like to articulate the things that go through my head either sometimes. I have my best ideas when I'm out running. Sorry, my cat's just about to appear. So I don't know. I just think about life, work, everything. And yeah, in races, I just try to keep content. I've said to people, like when I did the spine race, the best thing I could do was just find contentment and don't overthink things. Because if you think I'm only 50 miles in and I've got 200 miles to go and I'm in a really dark place and I'm really cold and I'm really wet and I've still got 4 days to go, your mind would just implode with those thoughts as well. So yeah, I don't know what I think about. I don't know.
But I would say the same. I had no idea what I think about when I'm running, but I've been told that like when you're doing yoga meditation type stuff, you don't think about anything, and that's putting you into a higher place. And doing that while you're running, is it a similar thing? Well,
I think if you can get yourself into that meditative state and that whole empty your mind and all that. I mean, you can't empty your mind; it's physically impossible. But I think one of the tricks is just to kind of stay in the present, and sometimes that's really hard because your mind will always wander on to what's going to happen or what's behind you. So yeah, I think with big races like that, it's key to try and keep your centralized, because sometimes if something's happening, you could smash your own head in by overthinking things. So yeah, I know for me with the spine, I tried to just kind of find contentment in what was happening. So it might be raining, I might be cold, but it's not going to last forever. So yeah. Hi, Luna.
Is there any races that you wish you had done, want to do in the future?
I want to do Western States. So the draw is this weekend. I think this is about my 6th or 7th time. I think I've got 32 tickets in the draw. So yeah, I would love to do that race. I mean, I've got more tickets every year, but more people enter every year. So I'm not quite sure if the odds are greater or lesser or whatever. But you know what? I'll keep trying. They've got to let me in eventually. So yeah, Western States is definitely one of the ones that if I could do one more race, it would be that. Yeah,
is there any regrets that you've done in running? Either you wish you hadn't done a certain race or just a certain thing that you did.
Do I? Probably not. I don't think so. I think there's races that I wish that I'd done things differently in. So like the whole 24-hour scene, I feel like I never got the best out of myself. And I think that was boiled down to really bad nutrition and never quite getting to grips with this, no matter how I tried or what options I did. Or, yeah, I never got the best out of myself. But I know that when I was doing them, I was trying my best at that time. You know, I didn't quit. There was one time I probably did. But it's not a regret as such, because I can't really change that. You know, I did toy with the idea of doing another 24-hour this year, and I ended up pulling out of it because I just couldn't find it within myself to build up that motivation to do it. And I think with a 24-hour race, because you do go into some pretty dark, painful places, you really need to want it to continue, because every lap is just an opportunity for you to quit. And I knew that I hadn't given myself that mental, physical, and emotional preparation to be able to push myself in that format. I'm not sure if I'll ever go back and do it. Like I went out to Barcelona to do the track race. The first time I shouldn't even have got on the flight. I was so sick. So I ended up being sick for the days before the race, and then Marco was sick the whole way home. So whatever bugs we had. So I shouldn't even have started it. And then the second time I did it, my stomach just fell apart. So I've kind of got that monkey on my back where I'd love to just do a 24-hour track race just to complete it and stay on the track for the 24 hours. But I would need to find some level of motivation that I just don't have right now.
I remember doing the Lakeland 100, and I had man flu before I started, and I shouldn't have even driven down there. And I remember getting to, I'm not even sure which checkpoint it was, but you were there and it's like, oh, can I get a hug now? It's like, no, you probably shouldn't, because you don't want to catch what I've got. But I'm running, so it can't be that bad.
Yeah, I think, you always just think it'll come good in the day, and you know what, it doesn't, because your body's quite clever and it's not going to let you do something that's going to damage. So yeah, when I did the first one, I got to 12k in a 24-hour track race, and I pulled out, and you know, I had to give the race organizer back my chip, and I pulled out so early in the race, I had no idea what to do with it. So yeah, 12k I got to, and within that 12k I'd already been sick over the barrier twice. So yeah, maybe one day I'll go back and do it. I'd like to think that I would, but that's probably one of, it's not necessarily a regret. I just feel like I never ever got the best out of myself.
Well, does that count as a DNF, since you, like, all you had to do is one lap for?
Yeah, unfortunately it's on the results. So there's no DNF. There is, I did 12k. Yeah.
So, have you DNF'd in any other race?
I don't have that many to my name, actually. I think I DNF'd the D33. Again, I wasn't unwell, but I just felt so queasy the day before, and I just couldn't shake that feeling of nausea. And yeah, I stopped halfway. I've never gone back and completed that one. I don't really have a burning urge to either, to be honest. I think that I don't remember any. Someone will remind me at some point of a race that I've DNF'd. I suppose the 24 hours is ones that I have pulled out of or stopped early. But yeah, no, there's not that many. I don't race very often, so when I do, I'm 100% committed to that race. I don't do training races or events that half-baked, and I am pretty stubborn. And as I said, I don't really get injured very often. So if there was a reason why I had to pull out because of an injury, so I don't have anything there. So no, I don't have many DNFs to my name, because I'm stubborn, and I think I'm just quite lucky that my body holds it together. Unfortunately, most times my stomach doesn't, but that's not a reason to quit, is it?
Right, something that we get back to, it's starting tomorrow, is the start of Marcothon.
Boom, boom, boom.
Start off, what is Marcothon?
Oh my goodness, this is something that Marco and I, I'm just trying to think now, back in 2009, our son Cairn was born in the January. So by the time we got to late autumn, Marco decided in November he was going to run every day 3 miles every day. And then I decided to follow suit and do it in December, because December is obviously harder to do than November. And it wasn't called the Marcothon back then. It was back when everyone had blogs. Do you remember that, when people used to read running blogs? And it was we were kind of part of that ultra scene at the time, if there was such a thing. So like the West Highland Way and the Fling, and it was quite a close knit community of crazy people who came together from all walks of life and became friends. So I remember putting in my blog saying that I was going to run every day in December, and I think maybe about 20 people said they were going to do it as well. And then I think the year after that, I put it as a Facebook group, and there was about 500 people in the Facebook group all over the world. And now I think we're nearly at 10,000 in that group. And there's a Strava group. I have no idea how many people do it. But it wasn't until like year 2 or 3 or something that it was a colleague of mine, Ewan Crumley, who works for Athletics Weekly. And we were in the office one day and we were joking about what we could call it. And I was like, we should just call it the Marcothon instead of marathon. And it kind of stuck. And then Ross Laurie did the logo for us. And then it just became part of this brand, I suppose, of people who seem to do it every year. Yeah, it goes a bit nuts, but it's good. It brings people from all walks of life. You know, there's a lot of people in there, and it's not necessarily about people like me who just skip a rest day. You know, I don't run on a Friday and now I run 25 minutes or 3 miles. It's not the biggest drama in the world. It's the people who really push themselves out of the comfort zone to do that, and they can do that because they've got this amazing community behind them who are supporting. And it's kind of great that it's people of all different shapes and sizes from all over the world and all coming together to do this crazy thing for absolutely no reason whatsoever. I mean, there's no medal, there's no t-shirts, there's no, you know, you don't even need to prove that you've done it. It's just that element of trust and people just doing it because of this amazing community that's been built around it. So it's got nothing to do with me. It just basically it just rolled on social media, and I just happened to be the person that started the group.
I'm sure you get some interesting queries on Facebook, because I've seen some of the posts, and some people's interpretations of it is interesting.
The good thing is now it's kind of self-policing or self-managing, so I don't really need to get involved in it. So I'll see someone will post something and I'll be like, I'll let someone else answer that for me, which is really bad, isn't it? But yeah, sometimes it can kick right off on there. You know, I remember one time I was doing a recce on the Pennine Way, so I had been out most of the day. I was out of signal, not that I would have checked Facebook anyway. And I was running back to my car, and I got in the car and I just picked up my phone and I was like, oh, what is going on in there? So I got in, and some guy in his banter, shall we call it, you know, posted, you know, women, when you finish your run, just post a video of yourself in the shower. And it all just like, I mean, he didn't mean anything bad by it. He thought he was being funny, but you know, humor has changed nowadays and you just can't say stuff like that. And oh my God, I thought my phone was going to melt. But yeah, there's always one firecracker in there that seems to upset people every year. Sometimes I enjoy it, actually. I just kind of like, sometimes it's all just a bit nice in there, isn't it? Which is wonderful. But so I don't tend to get overly involved in it. You know, people will tag me, you know, can you confirm X, Y, and Z? Am I allowed to stop at traffic lights? Does it need to be continuous? Do I need to, but yeah. You get to a stage where it just runs itself now, thankfully.
Well, I've done it 3 or 4 times, and I thought it's a really good way of getting from a sort of down period into getting your fitness back.
Yeah,
that's what it did for me anyway.
It's good accountability, yeah, and plus, you know, sometimes December's a really hard month to go out, and I totally get that. It wasn't chosen to be in December because we're mean. It just happened to be the month that it fell on. There was no rhyme or reason to it, other than I just decided I was going to do it the following month. So if Marco had decided in May that he was going to run every day and I did it in June, we'd probably be having a different format and a different conversation about it. So, trust the universe. It just worked the way that it was meant to. But yeah, I think it's just a hard month. People are really busy. The weather, depending on where you live, can be challenging. There's many a time where I'm like, why didn't I just invent Advent running and you could have finished on the 24th? But no, here I am going out on Boxing Day because I made everyone else do it. It's just a hard time, but 25 minutes is only 1.7% of your day. And trust me, I checked that in the calculator about 10 times because I thought that can't be even remotely true. So I think it's doable for most people to find that small window. And it just forces people to be a little bit more organized, and just make time for themselves as well, which is the most important at this time of year. And it's kickstarted so many people into regular running. I've heard so many amazing stories from it, like people who just started doing Marcothon or just started getting into regular training or found a group of people that would help or found a love of the sport, and now they've gone on to be much healthier, happier, fitter, stronger. So it's that catalyst or catapult into like a healthier lifestyle. And it is predominantly for the people who, are not your regular club runners or your seasoned ultra runners. It's for the people who are really struggling to get out there to do it for 25 minutes. And it's just, it's an amazing thing. I mean, as you say, some people kick off and it's actually some days it can be a bit challenging, but 99.9% of it is just magical. And it's great when people get their kids involved and, they're out in groups taking pictures with Christmas lights with our Christmas hats on and stuff. I mean, it's just, it's amazing. It's amazing. I wish I could take all the credit for it, but I can't because it just moved in its own way.
Well, if somebody's thinking about starting it, there are some very, very, very simple rules. What's
Well, let's just say they're guidelines rather than rules, because
okay,
you know what,
guidelines.
People can interpret it any way they like, because I'm not sitting looking at people's Strava. You don't have to prove you've done everything, but as a general guideline, you need nothing. I mean, it's really basic. It's 3 miles or 25 minutes, whatever comes first. So, if you can do 3 miles in 20 minutes, fill your boots, you've done. Or, you might do 2 miles in 25 minutes or less than that, and it is running. It doesn't matter if you're doing 6-minute miling or 16-minute miling. The pace is not important, but it is the motion of running. It's not walking, because I wouldn't want to belittle the efforts of the people who really do push themselves to run the 25 minutes. So running 3 miles or 25 minutes, whatever comes first, in December, every day. You take a break, you're out.
So
but
continue.
No, but you know what? As I say, it's a personal challenge. So if you think you're doing it and you think you're following the rules and you're pushing yourself out your comfort zone, nobody is going to tell you otherwise. So
no, somebody will tell you otherwise.
Not me, because I just leave it to other people. Do you know what? I think there is various interpretations of it, because I know some people will be like, oh, you can't stop, it's got to be continuous for 25 minutes. I don't believe it is. Do you know what? If you're running for 25 minutes at some point during the day, do you know what? That's fine. Do you know, it's not the Olympics. We can calm down. We know that you're probably doing a whole lot more than you normally would. Maybe someone does think it has to be continuous 25 minutes. I'm not bothered, to be honest. You can do whatever you think is best for you. But it's quite funny. I love it when you go on there and there'll be some person who's decided they're not running that day for various reasons, and they're in their pajamas and they're on the sofa, and they just get absolutely hounded by these people who are like encouraging them, and then it goes super quiet for about 30 minutes, and that they've put on their trainers and gone out, and they're super happy with themselves. So it's fun. It is fun. It's quite overwhelming how amazing that it's got for something that was just a really simple idea. But I suppose during lockdown, like, everyone was doing virtual events, and I thought maybe that would supersede, because there was nothing. There was no medals, there was no sign-ups, there was no nothing but I think people just keep coming back to it because it is challenging and because of the whole community thing, and they'll be bullied into it by other people who are wanting to do it, or they've got FOMO because all their pals are doing it. And people don't do it every year, they come back to it as well. So I'm sure you're doing it, aren't you, Mike?
I'm certainly considering it, yes. As I said, I've done it 4 times, and
yeah,
I would
just think
recommend
when
doing it.
you shave off that tash tomorrow, you're going to be super fast.
Streamlined.
You'll be like dropping sixes like sweeties tomorrow.
I think the key thing that came out of what you just said, as long as you are happy with what you're doing, then do it.
Absolutely. Yeah, it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. As I say, the rules are basic. People interpret them slightly different. But you know what? That's fine. It's fine. It's there for everyone.
Good. And leading on from a community like Marcothon is something that a previous guest, Karen Nicol, talked about, and you're the other half of this venture is Wild Heart Runners. So what's your interpretation?
This is where you out me for not watching Karen's YouTube video yet. Yeah, I mean, Karen and I devised this crazy plan on a canal run on a Monday morning. I kind of always thought that I would do something with Karen because we were both moving into the coaching field, and I'm like Kaz, I'm super passionate about women in sport and encouraging more women in sport, but it's not exclusively for women because we both coach men as well. But yeah, we just wanted to do something that was more about a community of bringing runners together, but also coaching and supporting people from all walks of life just to push themselves that little bit further. And then we came up with the name Wild Heart Runners. And yeah, we launched it a few weeks ago, and it's been really overwhelming. The response that we've had from that. I think there was definitely a gap in the market for what we were trying to do. Just from myself, just looking around and seeing what was available, there was nothing that really appealed to me anymore, like where I am in my life and what I wanted to achieve. And I feel like I'd outgrown some things and I wanted to move on and do my own thing. And yeah, we seem to have hit the nail on the head with that one, and it's kind of growing quite fast, and it's definitely gaining traction. We've organised a group run from Luss in December, and it's just doing the Luss Horseshoe and just people meeting up and having a coffee. It's free to join. There's just turn up and have a nice little day in the hills, and I think we've got about 60 people signed up for it already, which kind of worries me about how many people we're going to lose on that hill. But yeah, it's just the coaching is obviously the one side of it, but the community aspect is definitely something that I'm keen to grow. I do a lot of my running first thing in the morning by myself, and I do think there's a lot of people out there that would like to do something that wasn't necessarily a club run. Like I'm going to run with a club tonight, but it's at 7:15, and I just feel like I just wait all day just to do a run, which I could have done when I woke up at 6 o'clock this morning. But I'm quite keen to do that where I can go and run with other people, which I don't tend to do a lot. But whereas if I had people to do sessions or run with in the morning, I think I would get more from my training as well. And I think it just takes it back to that whole Marcothon thing with that community and accountability and people just coming together for a common goal, but coming at it from a different angle. So yeah, we've got no idea where it's going to take us or what we're going to do with it. We're both full-time working mums. There's only so much time that we can allocate to this. But we'll just see where it goes, and we're just quite enjoying letting it grow kind of organically just now and see what happens. So we've got there's no strategy, there's no tactics about what we want to do. I'll just grow at its own rate, and then we'll just see where it takes us, really. But it's quite exciting.
And just for the record, my interpretation is that the Wild Hearts Runners community run that you've just mentioned counts towards Marcothon.
Yes. Yes, if anyone wants to make sure they get 25 minutes in there, that's absolutely fine. I need to make it count for my Marcothon. So yeah, absolutely. But the most important thing about that is there will be cake afterwards.
Yeah.
And I pretty much run for cake.
And the whole idea between I'm guessing Wild Heart Runners and Marcothon is you're there to enjoy it.
Absolutely. Yeah. But not, yeah, I mean, it's just enjoy it, but also push yourself that little bit more, and just to have someone believe in you and support you and encourage you, whether it be a stranger on Facebook or a coach or a friend or a community or a group or something. It just means so much more than being alone. I mean, running is a very lonely sport, but it doesn't always have to be that way. So yeah, that's yeah, both things are quite exciting, aren't they? My December's going to be quite busy, isn't it?
Just a little Christmas thing involved as well.
Yeah, yeah.
Right, wrapping it up, one last question, and this could be a massive question. Sorry about that.
Oh,
What the Wild Heart Runners? You mentioned female participation in sport is something that you're passionate about,
yeah.
and what can people do? Like I've not told anybody, but I'm trying to get yourself, Karen, more female guests onto my show. I think the ratio is about it's nearing 50-50. So if any other females want to get on, feel free to contact me. But what can people do to encourage it? One thing that I'm involved in is running clubs. What can running clubs do to encourage female participation?
Yeah, I think it's great that people are actually talking about this and being aware of this. It has predominantly been quite a male-dominated sport, especially like the further up the distance you go. So I know races like Lakeland 50 and the Highland Fling and stuff like that have a higher female participant level. I do think the entries are skewed somewhat, almost like the London Marathon good for age. I mean, I quite happily take my good for age for London next year, but I am aware that being a female, I do get in a lot easier because of the numbers and the times and stuff like that, which probably is a whole different show for us here, Mike. I could probably go into this in greater depth on how I don't necessarily think that is the way forward, where you're giving women a shoe in to be able to participate. But you know, a lot of races are doing things differently. Like I did Cape Wrath this year, and they're really keen to get more women along. And it's, you know, I think, you know, ultra running is, you know, people in their 30s, 40s, 50s, where predominantly their lives are taken up by childcare or marriage or careers, and you know, just carving out that time for yourself to do something in a sport is not necessarily the things that women want to do or want to be perceived to be doing. You know, I remember when Karen was younger, I would get strong opinions from other people because I was away doing something for myself and taking that time out from the family home to do something. It is a little bit different now, but there's still that stigma attached to it. So, and it's really great that races like Cape Wrath are encouraging more women, and even little gimmicky things like having portaloos that are just for women. It's just a tiny little thing that race organisers can do that make us feel welcome and special, and it's just a nice little touch. So I know there's a lot of things that are doing. For me, the biggest thing is representation. I think it's really important that you see other women out there doing things. And I know, like, the first year I did the spine, the amount of people that signed up on the back of it, not just women, but men as well, who thought, well, do you know what? She's this little gobby woman who can do it, therefore I can do it. And that's fine. Do you know what? Fill your boots. But I think the representation is really important, and having other women who are like you, not necessarily, you know, the Beth Pascals and the Sabrinas of the world. You know, it's your everyday full-time working mom who still has dreams and goals and ambitions, and likes to push themselves. And I think that's really important, that you see other women who you can relate to, who are doing something that you want to do as well. And I think if we can get more women along there, encouraging other women to come along and do the same thing, and not feel uncomfortable or scared or unwelcome. So things like, you know, group runs and making sure that women are together in packs, because there's still a lot of women who are scared of the dark or scared of what's lurking in the dark. You know, there is that safety aspect. I find I'm pretty fearless, not fearless. I'm not really aware of things that could really happen to me, because I always think I'm not going to jump out the bushes and murder someone, so therefore nobody's going to do it to me. But obviously that is a huge issue for some women's in safety, and having that safety aspect where people can come along and feel safe and secluded within a pack is really important as well. So I know that my club at Garscoop Harriers, we have, a beginners and an intermediate group where people can come along and just try it. They don't have to commit to anything. And everyone stays together and looks after each other, and they just become part of this little community and a new friendship group, and it makes them progress into joining the club as well. So I think, like, taking away that intimidation of clubs as well, because maybe clubs, you just have this perception of the middle-aged, middle-class white man in shorts that are too small, running about in a vest, and that's their perception of a club runner, whereas just it's not anymore. There's a whole broad range of athlete there, and I know my club is taking leaps and bounds to do that, and they're really reaping the benefits within that community.
The club that I'm a member of, the Newbury Dunes, we've got 2 sessions. One is confidence and recovery, and one is for more advanced people. So the confidence and recovery, it gets people that are new to running or coming back from injury to be more confident. But even the more advanced session, you get out what you put into it. So if you're not as fast as the fastest people, how far can you do in 30 minutes, that type of thing. So it's everybody's involved, but it's just like, what else can we do?
Yeah, I think most clubs are, Scottish Athletics affiliated clubs are doing that just now. There's definitely more of a broad range, whereas maybe back a decade, 2 decades ago, there was a different perception of that club runner, whereas now there's not. So yeah, it's great. I think, things are definitely moving in the right direction, and it's great to see so many more women. I think there's still a lot to go. But yeah, I mean, maybe it's kind of the inclination of women. They don't want to do it the same, but yeah, I would love to see more women within ultra running, that's for sure.
Well, we're going to call it a day there, so everybody can go and get ready to do their Marcothon tomorrow in whichever way they interpret it to do it.
Yeah, that was please don't at me. I'm not asking questions.
Right,
if you've got any questions about it, just ask on the community group. They'll sort you out.
And somebody else will answer it, not you.
Yeah. Thank you very much. It was lovely to see you. And yeah, good luck shaving that off.
Right. Thank you. Bye, everybody.
Thank you.